Hello and welcome to Odds Serie A Matchday 34. What a title race. We have this season level on points Inter and Napoli. Leo, now the bookies see Napoli winning the Scudetto is 2.10, still the underdog. Remember that if they are level on points, we have an spareggio.
Yes, we have a high Leo, Edu, absolutely. And to be honest, Edu, I would love to see something like that. Why not to have a playoff final between Inter and Napoli? Goal difference does not play a role in Serie A.
It would be great, and we saw Inter out of Coppa Italia against Milan, so there is no option for the treble for Inzaghi's men. Well, a lot to talk about, a lot to analyze in this area, so guys, stay with us, of course. Press the like, subscribe, let's go on now with the show. And, well, remember, we've had a special weekend, the previous one, because we had Easter on Monday. The Pope passed away, so a lot of games were played on Wednesday. And we have the funeral of the Pope on Saturday, so there is no football. So we have one game only on Friday. Leo is Atalanta Lecce. Of course, here the odds are favorite to place Atalanta, really favorite, 1.28. Atalanta make a huge step towards the Champions League, beating Milan in San Siro and beating Bologna in the last two games. For Lecce, things are not looking good. It's only 1 point in the last 8 games.
Yes, Lecce is on the edge, Edu. I mean, just on the survival zone, 1 point above Empoli and Venezia. The hope for them is that this match day, Venezia that plays Milan and Empoli faces Fiorentina, but they are playing with fire. 10 matches winless with 7 defeats in that process. Away from home, only Venezia and Monza have collected less than Lecce's 11 points so far on the road this season. And Atalanta, Edu, you were right last show when you pointed at the goals under market last week for Atalanta's visit to San Siro. And that happened with that Emerson goal, which was a wonderful, actually, team move. One of those goals which we haven't seen for a long time in Atalanta, behind the competition for European places, is all over the place behind them. I mean, and now they managed to build a crucial gap of 4 points, at least at this stage, which means 2 games gap with 5 games to go. And now on Friday, facing Lecce, they have the opportunity of widening that gap to 7 points. Emerson not only scored the winning goal, he was one of the best players on the night. 4 goals so far this season, and apparently a future in the Premier League for the Brazilian midfielder. The same goes, apparently, at least for reports in Italy and England. The same goes as well for Matteo Retegui. Also, that goal was a showcase of what this team can build, or what this team can do, Edu, because it wasn't just that Emerson scored, but midfielders, wingers, all arriving to the box. The win was also impressive because Gasperini had to use players in different positions because he's struggling at the moment with defenders to get them fit. Kolasinac is injured, 𝐿 is injured. The same goes for Toloi. So that makes even more impressive the winning in San Siro for Atalanta. Of course, massive favorite here. Might take Atalanta half-time, full-time market, Edu, 1.80.
Well, as I said, no games on Saturday. Everyone is looking at Rome, at the Vatican, Leo. So we jump into the games we have on Sunday. Genoa is the first one, nothing on stake here, but Como are a rocket at the moment. Amazing 4-3-0 away to Lecce, as you just mentioned. 3 consecutive wins, 10 points in the last 12. Ending the season on a high. What a season, the first one in their history in Serie A, commanded by Cesc Fabregas.
Absolutely, and in Via del Mare, they were impressive, Edu. We have talked a lot about Como under Fabregas being a team that can be linked with more of a tiki-taka football. Of course, himself, for Fabregas, having played for Barcelona and Arsenal, having Arsene Wenger and Pep Guardiola as manager during his career, has helped to create this image. But his Como has shown many times, and against Lecce was one of those, that his team can play a very direct football and effective football. The opening goal was exactly that. A loose ball in 𝐿𝐭𝐚𝐲's half, 1-2 between Nico Paz and Acuna, a long pass from Nico Paz, and 𝐜𝐿𝐴 scoring his 8th goal of the season, 8 goals in 15 matches since arriving. A fantastic player. For the Argentinian midfielder, it was the 7th assist of the season. He gave an interview to 𝐿𝐭𝐚𝐲's website. He said he wants to play at the Lake next season. That is great news for the team. He also mentioned, though, that he wants to play alongside Lamine Yamal one day. So I don't know how they're going to take that in Madrid. But if Nico Paz staying, of course, it's a good news. What to say about Fabregas, who this week it was widely reported that he's going to stay another season with Como, and I believe that if they do a good summer in the transfer market as they have done in this winter, why not to think of Como competing for European places? Not Europa League, not Champions League, but why not maybe a conference league spot for them next season? Genoa lost with Lazio on Wednesday night, second defeat in the last 7 for them. It was in 10 minutes the game was defined for Genoa. After 20 minutes they were down to 10 men, and 10 minutes after that the red card, Lazio scored the opening goal. Probably we have to go back to August, September, more or less, to find Como on top of Genoa this season. On the road, the last win for Genoa came in December, and that was against Empoli. Since then, 4 defeats and 4 draws. So my take here, goals under 2.5. We know Genoa, usually their games are like that, goals under market. So goals under 2.5 in the visit of Genoa to the Lake, odds of 1.65.
Venezia Milan is the next one. Very interesting game because Venezia are only 1 point away from Lecce, as we said last week, Leo, when they were facing Empoli. The draw was very likely between the two teams, and well, they scored in the 85th, Venezia, but they ended up drawing that game. Remember, last home game they beat Monza, and who knows, perhaps Milan are hangover. Now their goal of the season is winning the Coppa Italia final against Bologna, and what a performance in the derby, and a player that we couldn't believe he was that important, Leo, like 𝐬𝐿𝐴𝐧𝐧𝐞𝐜. We haven't seen him in a while, probably since he was in Eintracht Frankfurt.
Yeah, but he has 4 goals in all competitions this season, and all of them in the last 25 days, Edu. He started netting at the Diego Armando Maradona in that defeat with Napoli 2-1, and now this brace as well in Coppa Italia. But to be honest, I'm done with Milan, Edu. I don't know, when I'm trying to think how they're going to play on the following game after a good performance, that game becomes absolutely, well, is the inconsistency we have been talking all season, to be honest. Because after the best match in a long time with Udinese, the switch of system with 3 at the back, as we talked last show, then to being absolutely absent against Atalanta, to then winning against Inter in Coppa Italia to get to the final, and the way that Milan won last night, it was a 3-0 emphatic win and a deserved win for Milan. Maybe the motivation was for them to disrupt Inter dream of a treble this season. 𝐶𝐭𝐚𝐲 used again 3 at the back, and I think that one is to stay with his Milan. Again, a very strong counter-attacking options he chose, because the wingbacks were Theo Hernandez and Alejandro Jimenez, and actually the header for the first goal came from a cross from the Spanish player. The double pivot, we had only Fofana as someone with more defensive characteristics, because alongside him in that double pivot was Rangers, who scored actually the third one, and then the attacking trio of Leao, 𝗀𝗏𝗏, and surprisingly to see him starting 𝗀𝐿𝐴𝐴𝐧𝐽. But again, was a very good performance for Milan. We're going to see what's going to happen in Venezia against a team that, when they play the top 8, top 9 teams, and especially at home, we know whether we have seen this all along the season. They know how to play, at least for a draw. this time for Venezia, even a draw. Many times I said, like, okay, as much as they're doing very well against the top 8 teams, they need to start winning games. Well, but this time a draw could be enough for them, because it will depend on what happens with 𝐿𝐵𝐵 and Lecce, and they're going to be playing at the same time, and that I'm absolutely sure is going to have an effect on Venezia Milan, Edu, because if 𝐿𝐵𝐵 starts winning that game, Venezia will know that the draw will be enough for them to be out of the relegation zone on goal difference. But again, we know in Serie A, even if Venezia finishes the season out of the relegation zone only on goal difference, they're gonna need to play a playoff to see who's relegated or not. But I can trust this Venezia to do the job, at least for the first half. That's what my take here, Edu, is Venezia first half double chance 1.66.
All right, it's good also to look at the Asian handicap plus something for Venezia, for instance, +1 could be a good idea. Later on, 3 p.m., we have a derby in Tuscany, Fiorentina, Empoli. Fiorentina thinking about the conference. They have the semifinals next week against Betis, but they beat Cagliari. And there's no defeat for them in the last 5 Serie A games, still with options to qualify for Europe via Serie A. And Empoli, Leo, as we were talking, involved in this relegation battle, is 3 draws in the last 4 games. Not enough for them to stay out of this bottom 3.
No, not at all. They're still there and level on points with Venezia. Huge win for Fiorentina in Sardinia to keep the fight alive for European places. 4 points behind Bologna in 4th, but of course with 3 other teams in between them. They won it from behind, Fiorentina, because they started the game 1-0 down. Then Gosens and Beltran, they score. They have won it without 𝐻𝐿𝐵𝐿, who left the team hotel before the game and did not even made it to the bench. The club said that the family reasons was why he left the hotel. We're gonna see if he's gonna be available or not for this weekend. But to say the least, he's in doubt to face Empoli. We're gonna see how the selection gets affected anyway for Fiorentina, because they're gonna be playing Conference League semifinals with Betis in Sevilla next Thursday. It was also important the win in Sardinia because it was the first away win for La Viola in almost 3 months, in a place where they won only once in the last 5 previous visits. Still 2 direct rivals for Fiorentina to play against before the end of the season, Roma and especially Bologna. Empoli is playing tonight the return leg of their Coppa Italia, with Bologna, the semi-final second leg, but that is already settled for them as well because they have to overcome a 3 goals deficit from the first leg. Empoli scored 3 goals or more only once this season, and that was against Verona in December. With Venezia, yes, they managed at the least to rescue a point before the end. Tino Anjorin, the former Chelsea Academy player, the one scoring the goal, his first goal of the season for him. We're gonna see how relevant or not that goal becomes for Empoli, who are still winless since December. But at least now they are not losing that often, with 3 draws in the last 4 matches for them. But still, for me, it's all over Fiorentina to win. Although, yes, I know last time at home for Fiorentina was a 0-0 with Parma. My take here anyway, Fiorentina to win, Edu, 1.73.
And a massive game, this one, Inter-Roma. This was supposed to be played on Saturday. Of course, Inter playing Champions League the following week against Barcelona. And Inter in trouble. Defeat against Bologna. Now level on points with Napoli. They don't have an easy schedule, and they have Barcelona next. They are coming from that defeat in the Derby de la Madonnina in Coppa Italia, Leo. And on top of this, be careful with Roma fighting for the European spots and no defeats in Serie A since the 16th of December. So long time ago.
Yes, and Roma can smell probably some blood. Ranieri can smell probably some blood here. And they need the win, Edu, because a draw for Roma will mean nothing, to be honest, in their chase of European places, especially a Champions League spot. And Inter look very poor last night in the Derby della Madonnina. Actually, they didn't look that good against Milan all season. 5 derbies this season, 3 defeats and 2 draws. And now the conundrum for Inzaghi, yes, the treble is not there an option anymore, and his Inter cannot afford the day off with Roma 3 days before they play Barcelona in the Champions League. Last weekend they lost everything on added time with Bologna. They were happy with the point Inter. Actually, 𝐬𝐭𝐚𝐲 came on the pitch to play the last few minutes with the idea of securing a point, and he was actually the player who gave the ball with a header to Orsolini to score anyway a beautiful goal. But as we said, the goal difference does not matter in Italy. The only team that played actually between Inter and Napoli a playoff to secure or not a title, that was Inter. That was the only time when the Serie A title was decided in a playoff final, but that was in 1964. So we're gonna see what happened this season with Inter and Napoli. I personally would love something like that. It could be amazing if we have that final, but this Inter looks physically and mentally drained, Edu. That's how they capitulated with Bologna and especially with Milan, and it's understandable up to a point. The second leg with Bayern in San Siro was a heavy match, was a draining match for Inzaghi's player, and he only rotated 2 players in Bologna, taking into account the starting 11 against Bayern. With Milan yesterday was different. There were like at least 5 players rotating. We have the usual Carlos Augusto and Di Marco on the wings. Then we have 𝗲𝗍 starting in the Freeman defense. Sommer was also rested in the bench, and Roma needs to win 3 points behind Bologna, and they cannot afford a draw. As I say here, it will be meaningless for them. For Roma, the last 3 games with top teams were all draws: Napoli, Juventus, and Lazio. But this time, that one, it won't count for them. That's why I expect probably a more open game than in other times. My take here, Edu, both teams to score yes, odds of 1.91.
Well, let's see what happens here, but it's a massive game in the road for the Scudetto. Next one is Juve Monza, first defeat for Tudor. We have to say that his display so far had not been great. Well, at home they beat Genoa and Lecce, but suffering. They had an easy schedule. At least they didn't lose against Roma, and of course, Leo playing against Monza, they should win.
Yes, absolutely, and that's at least the schedule is giving them the chance to going back to fourth until at least they see how Bologna is doing. It was a first step back for Tudor. Yes, on paper Juventus formation looked very good, Edu, with Nico Gonzalez and Kolo Muani behind 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. For me, it's difficult to understand why 𝐭𝐚𝐲 is not starting always for this team. He's the one that can make things happen when the team is not having the best day. And Juventus went to halftime already 1-0 down, and with 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 injured at the end of Tardini with Parma, and the decision was made to introduce 𝐿𝐭𝐴, who, as well like 𝐿𝐵𝗏𝗏, yes, he can take players on 1v1, but the Turkish can also make others play. He's a player with much more vision, but he didn't come on straight away in the second half. Anyway, it's not that the defeat with Parma can be only explained because 𝐿𝐵𝗏𝗏 did not start. Juventus pushed in the second half, but they lack clarity. More than 20 crosses in the game, but Juventus never came close anyway to score through a header or through that route. They are anyway 1 point behind Bologna, and a clear opportunity to get back to fourth on Sunday evening. Monza provides that platform for them before they play Juventus Bologna next weekend. That's going to be massive on a Matchday 35, thinking on Champions League places. At home, only 1 defeat all season for Juventus. They won 6 of the last 7, and Monza won't provide the second defeat in Turin. The odds are on a safe bet range. That's why I might take Juventus to win 2-0, odds of 1.8.
Of course, playing against Monza, you must win, especially if you want to qualify for the Champions League. And then we have Napoli, Torino, another key game. Napoli level on points. They have an easy schedule, actually. I was checking, Leo. They have Lecce, Genoa, and Parma. So all winnables, but of course, you have to win. And Torino, they are in good form. It's only one defeat in the last 8 games. And for instance, we saw how long it took Napoli to take the lead against Monza in the previous weekend.
Yes, absolutely. And they need to wait just 10 or 15 minutes before the end to score. And that's why someone for sure in Napoli is thinking, what if we make a statue of 𝐋𝐞𝐿? And no one could have thought that in August last year, to be honest. But well, he provided the goal, the Scottish, to reach the top of Serie A. Orsolini's goals was more celebrated in Napoli than in Bologna, that's for sure. 9 goals for the ex-Man United player. Not since 𝗵𝐿𝐻𝐵ci has a Napoli midfielder been so prolific like 𝐻𝐿𝐼. It was the first away win in 3 months for Napoli, but it was too perfect to be real. All season we talk of Antonio Conte, who's doing a massive job, being a calmer self after the Antonio Conte that left the Premier League firing at everyone, at everything. He was back in Italy as Sen Conte almost, but that finished already because he started fighting publicly with the De Laurentiis, and that is never good. But Conte had his reasons because before the game with Monza, on the training ground on Friday, Neres got injured. He's out apparently for the rest of the season, and Conte was frustrated because for him, he believes that most of the players who are suffering muscular injuries are because the training pitches at the training ground are not good. That infrastructure for Napoli is not good, and he thought that after 8-10 months some issues will be solved, and the Laurentiis haven't fixed any of that. The Laurentiis then going publicly responding to Conte. It's that time of the season when Conte is not in a good mood, and everything can happen with him. Hopefully, this is not going to distract the football side of things for Napoli. The other Scottish player having a good season is not just 𝐻𝐿𝐼. Che Adams for Torino. Che Adams scored in the 2-0 win for Torino last match day against Udinese. And 9 goals all season for Che Adams. The Granata has 4 wins on the road, but all of them have been against relegation battling teams: Verona, Empoli, Venezia, and Monza. Yes, Napoli the favorite here. Why not to look at Napoli to win 2-0 as has been many times, has happened many times throughout the season. My taking here with similar odds that Napoli to win 2-0. Napoli clean sheet 1.8.
Great Scudetto race, great title race in Italy between Inter and Napoli. I think it wouldn't be as surprising, of course, as Leicester, Leo.
No.
As Leverkusen last season in the Bundesliga, but it would be a huge surprise and a massive achievement for Antonio Conte. I think we all know how good as a manager he is, and also crazy, but he's brilliant. But it just challenging the Scudetto at the end of April, I think, is kudos for him and for his Napoli. And for Monday, we have 3 more games. Udinese Bologna is the first one, very important for Bologna. Now 4th in the standings, probably qualified for the Coppa Italia final. What a season for them, their first ever season also in the Champions League. They have a very tough schedule because it's never easy to go to Udine, despite they are in bad form. Leo, 5 consecutive defeats for Udinese, but then they have Juve, Milan, and Fiorentina, so it won't be easy for them to take the 4th spot.
Yes, absolutely, and that's why in Juventus they're like looking at those fixtures of Bologna and thinking, okay, it's in our hands. Well, and especially because they're going to face each other next weekend. And if in if in Napoli aside, like someone could be thinking of a statue for 𝐻𝐿𝐼, in Bologna someone could be thinking the same for Orsolini. Against Inter was his 12th goal of the season, and was a beautiful one. Is his best ever return for Orsolini. Also in Bologna, they celebrated for sure Matteo Pellegrino's goal against Juventus for Parma on Wednesday afternoon in Italy. Vincenzo Italiano had to celebrate Orsolini's goal in the stand because he was shown a red card. Maybe you give the ball in the same spot to Orsolini 10 times and he won't score, but who cares? He scored a very important goal against Inter, a difficult goal, but a very important one. Was the 7th in the last 8 win at home for Bologna. And as I said, the next home game is going to be against Juventus, but before that, they cannot think about Juventus before facing Udinese. That's for sure. Probably, maybe we're going to see some rotation tonight against Empoli because he settled that one after winning 3-0 the first leg in the Coppa Italia semi-final. So to rest some unimportant players to play on Sunday with Udinese. Yes, you said that 5 consecutive defeats for Udinese, which is far away from those performances we saw not so long ago with Napoli drawing at the Diego Armando Maradona, drawing with Lazio as well. The last 2 home games for Udinese were defeats and no goals scored. Bologna, of course, the favorite here. 5 of their last 6 away games for Bologna have all been goals under 2.5, and I'm taking that route here. Goals under 2.5, 1.61.
And Lazio Parma is also very interesting. Lazio now 1 point away from Bologna, no Europa League as they were knocked out by Bodo Glimt. So they can only focus in the Serie A. They have Empoli, Juventus and Inter next, so also very tough for them. But they were able to beat Genoa away. Is not easy. And be careful with Parma, almost safe. Leo, almost safe.
Yeah.
Great win against Juventus. And before that win, 5 draws. So they are very, very competitive.
Yes, undefeated in the last 6. The last away win anyway for them was back in November, but be careful with them. I do agree. The last time on the road for Parma, it was a great 0-0 with Fiorentina. And now with Lazio at the Olimpico. But Lazio haven't won at home since that 5-1 against Monza. Since then, it's 4 consecutive draws at the Olimpico for Barone's team, which anyway, they have a crucial win 2-0 away to Genoa, and they're still in contention for Champions League positions. And now, and for Parma, the win against Juventus means that they open a 6 points gap with Venezia and Empoli with 15 to play for, which I believe is going to be, or should be, probably the most important win of the season, the one with Juventus on Wednesday for Parma. For Lazio, good news, Tati Castellano scoring against Bodo. Yes, then he missed the penalty in the shootout, but then now he scored as well against Genoa. So it's good to have Tati Castellano scoring regularly again. Parma could dream of making the double with Lazio, because let's remember they won 3-1 at the Ennio Tardini. When Parma won that game, Lazio was at the back of 5 consecutive wins, and now they arrive having won 2 of the last 3. But as I said, they haven't won in the last 5 at home. Lazio, the odds are putting Lazio as favorite, of course. However, my take here, Edu, Parma Asian handicap +1, odds of 2.
Great season for Parma, newly promoted. We really like Parma. They have a young squad and they are very close to stay in Serie A. And next one is Verona Cagliari, also 2 teams fighting to stay in Serie A. Cagliari 5 points above relegation. Almost safe both, Leo, but Cagliari really need more the points, but Verona are in better form.
Yes, look, Edu, actually, when I first saw this fixture, I thought of a 6-pointer, but I'm not convinced of that, because Verona and Cagliari, for me, they're going to stay in Serie A. Verona, for sure, because they're 7 points above the relegation zone. Cagliari sitting 5 points above Venezia and Empoli, as you said. And then when you look at their fixtures, yes, they have Napoli on the final day, Cagliari, but before that is Verona on Monday, then Udinese, Como and Venezia. So we will see if that matchday 37 with Venezia ends up being a 6-pointer for Cagliari, but I can see them like being safe in terms of like the relegation. I know this could be probably a pass for many. I'm gonna go quickly here. The odds pointing to a draw, something that will suit them both, to be honest, and I'm taking that route myself, Edu, a draw, odds of 3.
I really like the draw as well. Verona drawing a lot of games in the end of the season. They didn't draw any game throughout the season, and now collecting points, both teams will be very happy with a point. Well, guys, remember, of course, you can post your tips in Oddspedia. Remember as well that you can win some cash prizes and participate in Rivals. Create your own tipster competition and play with your friends. Leo, safe bet.
Safe bet, Edu, Atalanta to win 1.28.
And the ACCA?
Atalanta to win combined with goals over 2.5. Inter Roma, both teams to score yes. Juventus to win plus goals over 1.5. These three together, odds of 5.61.
Thank you, Leo Bachanian. See you next week. I think this is the best competition we have this season, Serie A. So let's keep enjoying it. Bye-bye.